here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week is going to be a member of the band Romeo Void, because I recently spoke to the guitarist Peter Woods to find out more about life, love and poetry. So you're going to find out a lot about his life in music, also the band, plus just to say that Romeo Void have had a live album that has been reissued, well, just issued actually, from 1980. That was when it was recorded live at Mabuhay Gardens, November the 14th, 1980. This came out as part of Record Store Day and is still available, I do believe, though selling very quickly, so you never know, all the vinyl might have been and gone. But anyway, there is still digital download and CDs available. I will give you links to various places you could find more information about this release. But to get on with the show, this is the interview with Peter. So after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to that exciting subject that was the early formative years. And also just to say, Peter is, and you'll find out, is in Japan. So sometimes the connection is a little bit hit and miss. Mostly it's hit. So anyway, it's all good stuff. So anyway, Peter, tell us more about your early musical life.
So I'm 10 years older than you. I was born in 54, okay?
Wow.
Right?
I can do the maths. I can do the maths on that.
Yeah.
One.
I've told this story a million times, but I'm glad to tell it again because it is my awakening, my origin story. And what happened was I was 9 years old and Sunday night, the Ed Sullivan Show came on. Have you ever heard of that show?
Oh, yes.
Ed Sullivan? Okay. And guess what group was on that night? The Beatles. And, every other guy with a guitar has told this story, but I was it just rocked my world, as they say. I was not really listening to music before that. I wasn't that interested. And that night, it was a transformation. A lot of kids my age were transformed that night. Yeah. And I remember the next Monday morning at school, everybody was just going, "Oh my God, did you see that? What was that? They looked so weird." But the music, and it was. So from that moment, I was just, it changed me.
Yes, it definitely did.
It just really did, yeah.
So what did your parents have any kind of music playing on in the background?
My father was a singer, actually, and he was kind of a big band singer, briefly. So Sinatra was kind of in my radar, I should say. And I remember my mother had some. Have you ever seen a 78 disc?
Yes, 78.
Okay, this is before. Okay, you got to remember the technology. And I remember she had this Sinatra 78, and it was so funny. I remember the title and everything. It's called "The Sunshine of Your Love." Think about that. I used to play that over and over. So I developed this sort of love for Sinatra very young, and that never left me either. So, but I wasn't really listening. I wasn't focused on anybody. Like Elvis was, I remember my brother had an Elvis single or something. And I thought, it was okay, but I just interested. And then that night, and then a friend of mine in the neighborhood, we got guitars and started, learning these songs. And that's when I started playing guitar, was from that, right?
Yes. So whereabouts in America did you grow up?
Northern California, a town called Redding, California.
Right. So did you, at that stage, did as the 60s started to progress then and you saw the Beatles, did you sort of just become immersed in everything that sort of started to come out in the charts, from the sort of the Stones to the Kings to the Who to the...
Of course, all of that, because it was on radio, right? So it was on AM radio, top 40. Top 40 radio in that time was unbelievable.
Yes.
The quality of the music coming. It wasn't homogenized and corporatized at that time. So you're getting the Kinks and the Stones and the Animals, right? These are top 40 hits, and it's like great music. that was amazing time, right? To be listening to AM radio.
Yeah. And
Just had all
and how did you, because there's always that generational kind of gap that goes on, isn't there, in life? And often, you know, parents who
yeah.
possibly
Mhm.
liked, you know, people like Elvis and Buddy Holly, and, you know, they sort of went, yeah, this is, you know, we're all cutting edge. And, you know, I upset my parents with my music. And then they get to that age where their kids start playing something, you know, like the Beatles or the
Right.
Beatles, and they get horrified and suddenly, without admitting it, you know, become kind of weirdly conservative. So how did your parents cope with suddenly seeing these long-haired guys from
Yeah, it's
Britain?
funny. My parents are really immersed in the 40s, really. I'm, you know, my parents were older when they had me. So their musical references were like Sinatra, you know, and standards and big band and kind of the middle of the road pop that was coming out that time. But my mother, mostly my mother wasn't skeptical or condescending at all about it. She was very open-minded.
Right.
Some of the parents, yeah, go ahead.
I was
Yeah.
going to say, when you said big band, did they like people like Glenn Miller and
Yeah, that
also
stuff, right?
yes, and because
The wartime music was, you know, they're the war, you know, World War II. That's their sort of reference it, right?
yes,
My father was in World War II, so
well, I was going to
that's where
say,
they're coming from.
I was going to say, because I grew up in a village in sort of East Anglia in England, and
Mm.
we had a Second World War aerodrome, and there was probably about, I don't know, 20, 30
Oh
of
my
these
gosh.
American, there were the Air Force bases that was sort of eventually, you know, populated with Americans that all
Mhm.
came over, thus that, you know, the friendly invasion. So everybody has these stories of like having 2,000 or 3,000 Americans in a village, and that kind of impact it had for
Wow.
those 5 years, 4 years. So did your parents or did your dad, did he sort of serve time in the UK at all?
No, I think he was more of the Pacific Theater around there. He wasn't in Europe,
Right.
so he wasn't there at all. So
Yes. I just wondered because we had people like James Stewart who sort of served in a place called New
yeah, Jimmy
Buckingham.
Stewart was a bombardier or pilot of a B-52 or something like that,
B-52.
right?
Yeah. So he was in a village which was like 10 miles from Metfield, in a
Right.
place called Old Buckingham or New Buckingham. It's one of the Buckinghams. And then there was people. Yeah, there was a lot of American actors who sort of came over and did a bit of time, but I think James Stewart or Jimmy Stewart, he actually was the authentic one, whereas a couple of
Oh,
others
yeah, he was,
just
yeah,
hung about. But we had Glenn Miller
remarkable what he did.
who played around the bases of East Anglia, and
Yeah.
everyone was very excited if they'd seen him. So I just wondered if they had that kind of culture embedded in their life. So where did you just yes, I know. I love the Second World War stories, by the way. So how did you get into or how did you get a guitar at this stage in the 60s?
So in the 60s, I got an acoustical guitar, right? Very cheap one that eventually broke. I finally got my first proper guitar was a Yamaha called FG 180. But so I played acoustical until I about 20, I don't know, 25, 26. I never played electric until basically the time of the band, right?
Right.
The Romeo voice, yeah. There was a band just before that with Debora called the Mummers and the Poppers. That's when I picked up electric guitar for the first time. I'd never played before. So it was I was learning as I was doing, you know.
So what was your first gig you went to during that sort of, was it in the 60s when you were still sort of a teenager, or was it kind of in the 70s you went to your first?
My first big concert was Leon Russell in San Francisco.
God, that's so cool.
And that was my first sort of big, you know, great sort of musician. Of course, in my town there was all these rock bands playing all the time, but my first sort of big show was Leon Russell. I remember it very well. I think
Yes.
it was in Berkeley Community Theater. It was in Berkeley, and I was just, you know, it was exciting and just I couldn't believe what I was seeing or hearing. Just the quality of the musicianship. It was quite amazing.
Stunning. Yes. So did you start getting caught up in the interest in bizarre world of the counterculture, as well as being in San Francisco with their kind of performance art people like the Cockettes. Did that start to come into
I
your
went to
consciousness?
UC Berkeley. Okay, so I went to UC Berkeley in the 70s, right?
Yes.
So I guess that was my counterculture.
Mm.
And it was a real culture shock because I was from this small town in Northern California. And now I'm in this world of ideas and hair and all this stuff. So, and marijuana was sort of big at the time.
Yes.
So that was my first exposure to kind of worldly things, I guess.
Yes. And what was the kind of impact? Because you would have been 16 when you got to 1970. I've done the maths there in my head.
Thank you.
Did you? Because you'd obviously seen the Beatles and then Stones, and then that kind of transformation with the psychedelic sounds with Hendrix and the Grateful Dead, and then there was, the Doors and people like that, and then the 60s finishes on a bit of a downer, doesn't it? When Brian Jones dies, and then Hendrix, Morrison, and Joplin all sort of pass as well, and you go, "Oh, I'm
27."
Yes.
Right?
So what was it like when you sort of went into the 70s? You were 16, 17, and you went, blimey, that ended on a bit of a
Well, the 70s was sort of, it was a bad time for music. It had become, I don't know, it lost its edge, it lost its purpose. It was kind of homogenized. I was always playing guitar and singing. That was my thing. So I just did my thing. When I was in school and I lost my partner, I was kind of playing by myself a lot and just doing what I wanted to do. And I was writing songs at that point, right? And performing them.
Yes. So
that was sort of my musical world. Yeah.
So were you becoming an acoustic singer-songwriter in the sort of Paul Simon, James Taylor?
Exactly. That's what it was. That was my sort of image of being in music was, Paul Simon or something, or Neil Young or something like that, kind of acoustical singer-songwriter thing. That was my image. I never, ever thought that I would be playing electric guitar in a rock band. It was just not something was even in my imagination.
Yes.
So that happened. That was just a random event, right? It just happened. I didn't ask for it. It asked for me, really. So.
Yes. Well, I guess, and also you could play guitar, which is quite good. So during your kind of teens and 20s, did you go to university or college in that sort of period, up to sort of...
Well, I was at UC Berkeley. I went to UC Berkeley 4 years.
Okay.
And got a degree.
What did you study?
And then English literature.
Nice. My God, you were such a serious student, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. So again, I have, so to be a sort of, past, or I've always been a student. When I was working on a master's degree at San Francisco State University, when I had to quit to go on tour with this band, it was, I was a student. And again, I wasn't expecting any of this. It wasn't a plan. It never was a plan, right?
No, absolutely.
It happened. That's the thing about this band. We never planned anything. We got together and we were writing songs and we enjoyed it. And then we found a drummer, Jay Dara, by the way. I want to mention him. He's on the record and he's finally getting his due.
Right.
He's on and I want to mention him because a lot of stuff happened where he was kind of put aside for some reasons. But it's nice that it's gone full circle and he's getting his due because he deserves it. And it's really nice to have him on this record.
Yes, well, absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, so we we just wanted to play. We had no other goal than to play music. That was it.
Yes, because in a bizarre way, Because I said, in
Yeah.
a bizarre way, when you formed in 79, you would have been 25 at that stage, which is almost quite old for a sort of a young up and coming band, isn't it? Really, because
Yeah, and
I remember doing an interview with a guy called Richard Strange from the Doctors of Madness, who was about 25 when punk hit, and he said, "Oh, we were just over the hill." But when he was a bit, he'd started in the
25.
early 70s ish. And he said, they were quite punky. So all the people who came to see him, were like the Sex Pistols and the Clash and various other bands. They were quite young kids, and they all formed, punk bands who became very famous. And by the age of 25, when it suddenly, oh, punk is now caught up with us, it was a bit like kind of we're just like the old men in the room. We're sort of too, we can't really be part of the scene, even though he'd helped create it. So yeah, 25 for a band is
25. Wow. I
I
still
know.
felt young, especially.
Well, now we look back on it and it's incredibly young, but then, it's such a
Again,
big,
it happened at 25. I was not planning any of this. It just happened that I was playing guitar, electric guitar, right? And so, yeah, it was 25. There I am,
so
forming a band.
how did you meet the other members of the band?
Okay, so the story again, Jay Dara, the drummer, we're from the same hometown, so we've known each other for a long time. And one day he came to me and said, "Well, there's this group of people are playing some cover songs, and they need a guitar player. And would you like to try out?" And I said, "Okay, sure." And I didn't even own an electric guitar at the time. Okay, and he goes, "Well, you can borrow one." So I went to this place, this rehearsal basement kind of place, and they lent me a guitar, and that's where I met Debora. The band was called the Mummers and the Paupers. It was a cover band of like 60s and R&B and things like that. That's where I met her.
Yes.
And I literally picked up the electric guitar that first rehearsal. I'd never played before, really, and it was a little scary. I thought, I don't know if I can do this, but I guess I did well enough. And then
Yes.
I quickly bought an electric guitar after that. So,
And were you kind of the most...
that's where I met Debora.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
And were you the most competent musician in the band at this stage because of your sort of been playing since the 60s?
Well, I had a good solid background, in playing songs, writing songs. So I don't know if I was the most competent, but I was good enough. And so that's where I met Debora. Okay. When
Yeah.
that band broke up, I was out of music basically. I was going to school. I had no sort of plan to play music, and she just called me up one day and said, "Oh, I'm working with this bass player, and we've written some songs, and we need a guitar. Would you like to try?" And that's how I got together with Frank and Debora. They just asked me to come and play with them.
Yes. And Jay
So,
was...
and again, that was a random event. I wasn't expecting it. It was just a phone call. I showed up with a
Yes.
car.
Oh God! Well, then you're definitely going to be in the band, aren't you? At that stage.
Yeah, I'm in the band because I have a car, right? I can haul gear.
You've got multi-purposes here. So then
Yes,
so
exactly.
did you start playing live quite quickly and sort of develop
Very quickly. Yeah. We found our first drummer before Jay, and we just started gigging. This is before we didn't have Ben on the sax at that time, right? We were just the musical side was just a three-piece, bass, guitar, and drums, and Debora singing.
Yeah.
So this was the original band, and we just started playing around because there were so many venues in San Francisco at that time. Everybody was making a band. It was do it yourself, right? Make your songs, play, right? So there were lots of places to play. And so we just played. We wrote songs, we played. We wrote songs, we played.
I know. This is all very exciting. So then November the 14th, 1980, you recorded this live album, live from the Buhay Gardens.
Right.
So can you remember much about that? What was the venue? What's so special about this venue, by the way?
It's kind of legendary. It was a lot of bands played there, some famous bands, right? Punk bands at the time, a lot of them. Black Flag and things like that. Just tons of bands. It became it's famous. If you Google it, you can just look at the roster of bands that play there. For some reason it became the place to play if you were in that genre, right?
Yes,
I think it was a restaurant, and they opened it up at night as a club or something like that. It was pretty funny. So it was this funny little place where everybody wanted to play. I don't really remember that night, honestly. The guy Terry Hammer, he was recording all these bands. I don't even remember being recorded, honestly.
Yeah.
Till it came. And then one day I was going on YouTube and I saw he released about three shows that we did. And I was like, what is that? And I just started listening, and it was like listening to someone else. It was very strange. There's one song I had no memory of at all. It's called Fine Line, and I just don't remember making it or playing it or anything. It was like visiting yourself from another dimension. It was a very strange feeling.
Yes.
So I don't remember it. Honestly, I don't remember it.
So coming to the full, circle and the present day, I mean, was it kind of quite a surprise when this album was going to get, or has been released for Record Store Day, sort of brought out as is it a limited edition, sort of, I don't know how many copies?
Well, there's a limited vinyl edition of it, right?
Right.
And then it's of course you can get it streaming and CD and all that. So, but there's a limited vinyl, which I guess you don't have it. This is it.
This is it. I'm glad they gave you a copy. God, that's so nice.
Yeah, they gave me 10 because I'm special.
Yes, God, that's so nice. And has it been?
And it's blue vinyl. It's really cool.
Has it been in? Oh, let's have a look at your blue vinyl.
Check that out.
It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. I mean, don't put your fingers on it. God, that is good.
Yeah.
Do you have a record player?
But it was a big surprise. No, I don't. I can't play this. I'm in the 21st century.
I know. We just like to stream things. So what was it?
Go ahead.
I said, no, we don't have a CD record player, actually, which is a great shame.
Yeah, I don't have one, so.
I don't know if I'll ever bother. But so has the interest of the band been a bit of a surprise to you? Have you been like thinking, oh, this has been
You mean like
nice.
this record?
Yeah,
this record?
and just the curiosity with Romeo Void, because obviously the one thing I've noticed doing this show,
this is 43 years ago. I mean, I got an email one day from a guy named Arnie from Liberation Hall Records, right? And he emailed me, said, we have access to these tapes, and we would like to make an album out of this and release it. Would you be interested? It was just out of the blue, right?
Yes.
We got in contact with Debora and Frank, and they got on board, and then it just started going from there.
I know. And then suddenly
it was a total surprise, total shock, right? We haven't released material in decades.
Yeah. But then, once you've done that live recording, this is when you were minus Ben on saxophone. So the band kind of shifts into gear quite smartly, doesn't it? Because suddenly you get
this record has Ben. We made sure Ben is on this record. Okay.
Right.
He had just joined at that time, so he's kind of feeling his way into the sound and trying to find the right places to play and the right tone and the right just everything to fit into the rest of the band. So it's a really beginning stage of what we were to become. It's a snapshot into this very young band that's not really, it's not. We haven't sort of found our sound yet. We're searching. We're working on it. It's a work in progress, right? So it's kind of interesting in that sense.
Yes. So when you then sort of decided, Ben was definitely on board with the saxophone, and the sound starts to slightly change again. Going towards the next year and the next album, It's a Condition. Did the rehearsals take quite a different turn of kind of ways of working to sort of put that, you know, your debut
Oh
album
yeah,
together?
extreme. Um, you know, at the time of this recording, we had not made any sort of record deals or anything. We didn't know that we would eventually make a record. But the producer is David Kahn on It's a Condition. That's the first album. Okay.
Yes.
He went on to be, you know, he's really big now, but he was, you know, not well known then. But anyway, he's very hands-on about production. So when we started rehearsing with him, it was a shock almost about how much work he thought we had to do to get this to sound good.
Yes.
I think this is the story of a lot of bands. You go in the studio, you just can't hide. You have to get it right. And so he was very hands-on about getting the arrangements, the parts, and the sounds. So it was really just a learning experience from just this band that's just playing in clubs and, you know, finding its way. And then this guy going, okay, let's get serious now. And we got to record this. And it was just a, you know, very different experience.
Yeah.
It was difficult, but I learned a lot. And it was like musical boot camp. Just because his standards are very high, and you know.
But it was interesting because you know, in the UK, this is kind of simplistic. You know, there'd been that punk period and then post-punk with some kind of interesting bands like Magazine and Gang of Four and Public Image Limited. Mm-hmm. And so, and then sort of as the 80s progressed in the UK, you know, we had things like, you know, the new romantic stuff that started to appear, and then sort of indie pop that sort of, you know, the Smiths came along in 83, which kind of created quite a sound. But your sound was quite unique, wasn't it? Because it blended a certain amount of kind of a jazz funk kind of vibe alongside sort of this kind of indie sound. So, you know, did you get kind of excited at this stage with the sort of direction of the band? Because it was it did have a good sound. It does, and it still sounds good today, because it doesn't sound very, you know, like some music from that period does sound very dated, whereas this had that kind of, I suppose the sax sound does give it a...
Yeah, that really, when we added Ben, it really changed the dynamic. But we have, all four of us, you know, the songwriter, the musicians, we brought a different sensibility to it. For, you know, everybody came from a different sort of background. I was really sort of pop, Beatles, and Debora, you know, is it Patti Smith? She loves Patti Smith, and Frank likes the Stones, but he's also into this, you know, alternative stuff that I really wasn't listening to at the time. And then Ben comes from a big jazz background. Okay, so it's an amalgam of all these different influences that happily sort of came together into a sound that became our sound. So we're fortunate in that sense of having all of these influences to draw from. So that's what when you're hearing us, you're hearing that all of these sensibilities coming together and in a harmonic way and a respectful way. You know, we all listened to each other, and it was very exciting. When Ben joined, it was like the missing piece of the puzzle, and it was like, okay, this is it. This is going to work. Because before Ben, there was this kind of empty space. I'm not a lead player. I'm a rhythm player. Okay, that's my thing. And we're missing that element. And we were trying things. And then finally, when he came in, it was like, oh, that's it. That's it. That's the sound. We found it. Right. So it was really fortunate to get him.
Yes. But obviously then you follow it up with this kind of EP, which has the single Never Say Never. Can you remember much about that, the recording or the writing of that song that sort of became...
That song? Oh, yeah, that's quite a story. It almost didn't get recorded for that EP. It was an accident, really, almost. What happened was, we recorded the 3 songs. I think there was a 4th. Okay, so it's 4 songs, and we were done. It was in Synchro Sound in Boston with Recco Kasich. Okay, and we were done with the EP recording. We moved all our equipment out, and we did this last show it's called Spit in Boston. It's a club that we're played all the time. Anyway, so we played a show there before we were about to leave, and we played all of the songs we had. They asked for an encore. We didn't have anything except this jam. It didn't even have a title at the time. That was Never Say Never, but it was just a jam. And so we played that. And the producer engineer, Ian Taylor, happened to be in the audience that night. He heard that song. And after we got off stage, he said, "Oh, my God, you have to record this." So they packed all of our stuff back into the studio. And the next morning, I know, it's crazy. The next morning, we recorded the song. So the song was written on the road at sound checks, basically.
Right. There you go.
So it was kind of pieced together gradually. But when it really wasn't finished at all until we recorded it. And it's an edit of just playing the different sections. So that's what happened. It almost didn't get recorded.
Oh my God, I know that would have
Yeah, it's just a very happy accident, right?
Because you'd been on 415 Records, and then for the next album you're on Columbia Records. But did you get quite a lot of interest from labels as they started to as you started to get noticed?
Yeah, the EP really brought us to another level, and that's when we got all the big label interest in the band.
And at this stage,
so that was really pivotal. Yeah.
And I was going to say you're sort of moving through drummers quite fluidly here, aren't you?
Yeah, that's sort of the story of this band. The drummers that come and go. But we were blessed with good drummers. Jay, Dara, and then Larry Carter and Aaron Smith. So we. Yeah,
I was going to say, how does that kind of influence the band when you suddenly have this new member who's the drummer, which is quite a major moment, holds
it's
together.
Really a strong influence on the sound. So for the It's a Condition, the first album, it's a guy named John Stench. It was David Kahn's sort of drummer guy that he always used, and he insisted on having him for the sessions. So he has this very tight, meticulous sound, and that's on the album. And then after that album was over, we had to get a drummer to play live. We didn't have one. So we got Larry Carter, and he's this kind of big rock, smashing the skins kind of guy. He's got this huge sound. So that really propelled us in a very sort of different direction. And that Never Say Never is the ultimate sort of sound of Larry Carter on the drums. He's just like, it's a huge, big drum sound, and it really, propels the song. So there's that. And then Aaron Smith brought another sensibility to it. He was, he played with the Temptations, right? So he had this R&B background. So that brought a different sensibility, fluidity, just a different kind of drumming style. So they do influence, when you're playing live, it's completely, it changes.
Yes, well, I know David Bowie would use a lot of drummers, and I know he did one.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah.
Dennis Davis, who played on quite a few of his in the sort of late 80s, including Low, and he just has a particular sound which is just incredible, and a vibe, and a rhythm which is stunning. So when you came to record the second album, what was the kind of writing process before you went into the studio? Were you sort of coming together as a sort of a band, jamming to sort of get the material together, or were you beginning to sort of take different roles with that?
Well, generally how it would work is Frank would have a song idea, like a bass line that he liked, or sometimes even a keyboard. I think sometimes he would, and then we would, or I would have an idea and I would bring it, and Frank and I would work out if it sounded promising, we would work on it and develop and make just a very basic recording of this idea, and then hand it over to Debora, who had a book of she had a book of lyrics. She was always writing lyrics, and she would sometimes just refer to lyrics she had written if the song kind of sparked that idea, or she would write original lyrics. It just depended, but basically it was like that. And then after she got it, we would all sit around and sort of work on the melody and the singing and the verses and the choruses and like that. So it became sort of a refining process, and
Yes.
that's kind of how we wrote things. But sometimes it's just on the road, like Never Say Never was just sound checks. Somebody has an idea. I started doing that guitar riff, right? I just started doing it. Larry Carter, the drummer, just started playing with that. Frank comes in with this amazing bass. So that was just very spontaneous. So it depended, but generally it worked like that.
Yes, that's interesting. Because you worked with Ian Taylor for the second album, but then when you did your third album, Instinct, you were back
We
with
went
David.
back to David Kahn, yeah. We went back to David Kahn.
What was the reason for that?
I know my reason for it, but I can't speak for everyone else. But my reason, I thought I kind of wanted more. I thought we'd done kind of big drum jam kind of songs. I wanted to go to more, I don't know, more listenable kinds of. It's hard to describe, but just I wanted a little different take on the band. That's my feeling about it. I wanted to get a stronger sort of song sensibility going.
Yeah.
And in my mind, and I guess the others, David Kahn was the right guy for that, because he has a completely different sensibility than like the EP and that album. Yeah, right. He's really hands-on and. It really works on arrangements and things like that. So I guess we felt that was probably a good direction to go.
Yes,
and I think it worked out for the most part.
Yes, because with a lot of bands, they have that kind of 5-year narrative, don't they? They get together the 12-month honeymoon period, and in this country, we had the great John Peel, who'd sort of give you a play and possibly a session at the Maid of El Studios with Dale Griffiths. He was in Mott the Hoople. He was the man who sat there in the studio for quite a lot of it. And then, get around the UK in their little transit van doing gigs, and that was all good. First album come out, that was quite nice. Second album, people are, learning what to do. Sometimes the third album can be the tricky one. There's when people have been together for a while and everyone's getting a bit tense with each other, and there's also sometimes a bit of a lack of money after all this work. What was it like coming into your kind of third album, Instincts, at that stage? Because it had been 5 years, hadn't it? You'd been together.
What you just described it is really accurate. Were you there? No. Yeah, there's this time where you've been on the road and you've been with these people for a long time, and yeah, there's a fatigue that sets in. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And it's a business, and there's CBS wants you to produce hits, and it really changes the dynamic, right? It's about now we have to make hit songs. It was that we were never about that, and so that kind of pressure, it changed everything. Okay.
Yes.
So that album honestly, that wasn't a happy time at all. It was difficult. There's all this pressure, right? To, I don't know, get on the radio and be we were never that band, right?
Yes, I know.
To me, the ultimate take on our band is that EP. I think that is our statement, because we did those songs, we arranged them, nobody touched. We did that they just recorded it. Okay, to me, that's the ultimate expression of what we were about, and that to me is Romeo Void. That is. After that, it became more, commercial pressures and all that, and it changed us. And I honestly, probably not for the better.
Yes,
it was more, okay, it's professional rock time, right? And that's not what we were never about, that, right? So that EP to me represents the best of everything we were about,
Did you, I
Yeah.
mean, because some bands I've sort of asked, about that, their final album, did they know it was going to be the final one? And sometimes they say no. And then sometimes it was a bit like, yeah, we knew this
Like
wasn't
Abbey
going to
Road,
happen.
right? The Abbey Road album.
So what was it like for you? Did you think, God, let's just get through this and that will be it? Or did you sort of
I
think it?
I don't know again, I can't speak for the other members, but for me it was like I don't see this going anywhere after that. I was kind of out, and I thought this is going to be it. I couldn't see going on. And also that, Columbia was just was kind of done with us anyway. So I don't think there would have been, even if we tried to stay together. I don't know. Columbia was kind of out.
Yes, that was it.
They,
I mean,
they,
you were sort of perfect. I mean, actually, sort of for me, between 83 to 87, which is the years of the Smiths, was kind of a perfect time for sort of the sound that you'd created, actually. But then, every band has to have stamina, doesn't it? And the Smiths only lasted 5 years, but another band who, well, U2 just can't stop. But I think they come from a different world, don't they, of resilience and sort of perseverance, whereas most bands.
That's funny. We played with U2 quite a few times, because when they came to San Francisco, they liked us and asked us to open for them several times. So we got to kind of know them. It was interesting that you mentioned them.
Yes, well, yes,
we have this history with them when they were just starting out, and it was very exciting to watch them.
Yeah, because I did an interview with a member.
They were incredible.
Because I did an interview with a member of the Pylons. Were they the Pylons from Georgia?
The Pylons, yeah, from Atlanta. Yeah,
yeah.
I remember.
And I think they got offered the support U2, and they were going, "We don't want to support U2. That's not what we're into. We're into sort of much more interest in art rock, And I think they were furious.
We loved it. It was a great. We had a ball, right? I mean, they were just kind of new, and they were their live show was unbelievable. It was incredible, and I was watching them and taking notes. I wanted that sound. Watching the Edge play, it changed my sound. Literally, I remember one night I just looked at his pedal board and I was taking notes. Like, what's this guy using? And I got a couple of pedals just from him. Right? And so yes. We had a great time with it. Bono was really nice. He was a great guy, really friendly and welcoming, and he didn't have any rock and roll attitude. It was just really fun, right?
Yes. Did you ever
watching them live? I learned a lot. It's like how to play a show, right?
I would imagine.
So that was
they knew how to do it, and they're going to be in Vegas soon, aren't they? At the Sphere, playing this new venue, which is.
Are they going to go to Vegas? Are they going to Vegas? That's right.
Yeah, they're playing. Well, there's a new venue that's just been built in Vegas called the Sphere, which is a massive, massive space. But it's not just a normal venue. It's going to be an art house kind of show with lots of projections. Yeah. So that will be weird, And there you go. So the standout track on the album, It's a Girl Thing. Can you remember how that came together?
I'm sorry.
Yes, the connection just dropped. I said that one of the tracks, the standout track on the album, A Girl in Trouble. Can you remember writing that and how that came about?
Yeah, I think everybody has an idea of how that song came about, but I remember driving in my car thinking about this chord progression in my head. That a lot of my stuff came from driving in my car and starting to hear sort of chord progressions. And so I remember bringing this chord, the basic it's in a minor key and it just bounces back and forth. I remember bringing that to Frank, and we just started developing that basic chord progression.
Right.
And we recorded it. And I remember playing it, and we played it for Debora, and she liked it, and she started working on it. And at the time, David Kahn, the producer, was getting our material together to make the album. He heard the recording. He started adding his sort of 2 cents to it. So he's all over that thing.
Yes.
I think Frank doesn't have a happy memory of that song. He was, and so he's credited as a writer on it. And he, in his head, he heard the hit single and so he just massaged it and recorded it and redid this and redid that. And it just became this sort of monster, this Frankenstein monster song of all these, parts. But it started like that, just sort of Frank and I putting this thing together on tape, and then him hearing it and then adding to it. And that's how it sort of developed.
And the second track, Just Too Easy. What was can you remember the kind of how that song came together and the sort of the lyrics?
Well, you hear that guitar, the riff, the guitar riff, it starts out with mine. It's, it's funny. You just don't remember the actual writing of a lot of the stuff, but I'm sure it was the basic process. It would be nice to ask Frank, did he come up with the bass or did I come up with the guitar? I don't really remember. Yes. But I remember I came up with that riff. Da, 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 the minor, it's a D minor, right? I came up with that, and it might have started from that. I don't remember the actual writing of that song.
And when the album came out, did you tour it at all, or was there just almost like the?
Oh yeah, we totally toured. Yeah, we did a European and I think American tour. We did our first European tour off that, right? We did UK, we did Germany, we did Sweden, Italy, France. Yeah, we did. Yeah, of course. Yeah, we really pushed it. Yeah.
Yes, and then what happens once the tour is done? Is this the kind of the end of the band at this stage?
It was the end. I remember the very last gig we ever played. I think it was in Germany, maybe, but I remember playing it and being on stage and going, I think this is the last time I'm going to play with these people. It was a very strange feeling.
Yeah.
Because at that point in my mind, it was sort of over. I went to law school. I don't know if you know that, but I had already applied and I was set to go. So it was over for me. And so it was a strange feeling. I was in Europe. I think it was Germany or England. It was either England or Germany, but and I was thinking, wow, this is the last time I'm ever going to play with these people.
Yeah.
And but it later, it wasn't the last time, because we did this TV show called VH1. This channel has got the Bands Reunited. So I actually years later got together with them again. So it actually wasn't the last time, but at that time, I thought it was, right.
Yes. Well, so, it kind of was the last time, in a proper way. The kind of
the last waltz, right?
Can you remember the moment did you all sit down and have the discussion, or did you just stop turning up?
No, we weren't talking very much. What I always compare it to a divorce. The marriage got sour. We had a divorce.
Yes.
The parties weren't really talking anymore, right? We weren't sitting in the same room, it was one of that. So no, there was no talk. I think everybody knew it was kind of the end of it. We just sort of knew.
Yeah.
We didn't have a talk. So
if one had walked into the dressing room of Romeo Void, there was an uncomfortable atmosphere, would you say?
I don't know. I think we had enough respect for each other that, we carried on and we did our shows and we were professional about it. And what's really nice is we've all come back to have a great love and respect for each other. We're communicating a lot. You know, what's great about, you know, the 21st century is that you don't have to, you know, drive over to somebody's house to sort of interact and be in their world. You can do it through all of these social media things. It's funny. This record sort of brought us all back in each other's orbit, and we're, you know, following each other on Instagram, and we're emailing each other, and it's really come full circle.
Yes. Well, also
So,
the other. Sorry.
yeah. But I'm just saying, we've come together again. It just this great fondness for each other, and, you know, remembering all the good things that we did together. So I'm really glad that this album came out, because it just brought us all together into this sort of common purpose again.
Yes.
So
well,
it's
also,
a good end to the story, right?
it is. Well, it is a good end. But with it, I was just going to say, the other thing that happens in life that you can never think about when you're that young, or you might have an occasional passing thought, but in a bit of a rock and roll show busy way, is that as we get older, you know, we all start creaking, don't we? And I noticed that the last couple of them, your parents getting older, and then that's like, oh yes, I didn't think of that when I was 20. But you lost 2 members of the band in the last couple of years, didn't you?
Yeah,
And then Ben,
very quickly.
and yes, that's a little bit of perhaps I can put aside. I mean, you know, I'm not saying you did, but
Well, it makes you, you know, you literally think about mortality, right? You think about, you're not here forever. It's undeniable, right? We're all mortal.
It is that spinal tap moment.
That's the end of everyone's story. No one gets out alive, right? You know what I'm saying? It really sort of gives you pause to think about, you know, the people you love and the ones you want to remember. And yeah, that was bad, right? We lost Larry and we lost Ben.
Did you get a chance to speak to either of them towards the end of their lives?
Well, it's you know, having social media, this really is so wonderful. The world we live in. So Larry and I, the drummer, we were communicating through Facebook a lot, and so I you know, when he left the band, it was kind of not on good terms with anybody. It was kind of sad, but we came to you know, reconnect through Facebook, right? And I sent him one of the song I had written and recorded on my phone, and sent it to him, and he sort of processed it, and it was really kind of a fun sort of exchange we had. So I reconnected with him, and with Ben, it was sort of too far at the end where he was not even able to communicate. Right. You know, he got Alzheimer's, so I was communicating with this nice woman who was watching over him. And so I communicated with him through her. So again, that was kind of a comfort to be able to know that we were connecting on some level.
Yes.
You know, so.
But that's quite an amazing sort of feeling. Yeah, I know it does happen, and one does get slightly sort of like humbled by the experience. And obviously, yes. So did you, just briefly then, you went to law school so you could focus, which is quite a good thing, on something completely different to music, but also probably find yourself having to pay attention and do various. Yeah,
I crack the books again. That was quite a shifting gears.
So that was your third. So then was that your career for the most of your adult life?
For a while, until I couldn't take it anymore. Yeah, it was my career for a while. And then it's like a band. It's sort of a bad marriage with your career. So I ended up, I just sort of left the field because it just wasn't doing it for me. And I have an English school here. Oh, so I ended up, my wife is Japanese. I don't know if you know that. So
no.
Yeah, my wife's Japanese and my kids are obviously half Japanese. And so we made a decision to just come here and, try out an English school. It went way better than we expected. So I was only going to be here for like 3 years. It ended up, 20, whatever. But again, that's the story of my life. You make plans and then the universe tells you something else.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's great. And do you still? I mean, you did just say you mentioned playing guitar, but when did the guitar appear back in your life again during that?
It never left. It's never left.
I can see.
There's my red guitar there. There's my Yamaha there, and I have a Martin over here. I never stopped, right? I still write songs. I do it. I just don't go through the whole process.
Yes.
I never stopped. It's me. This is what I do. It's like breathing. I play guitar. I sing songs. I write songs. I sing the songs I love. It never stopped.
Yeah.
In fact, in some ways, I'm a better guitar player now than when I was in the band. I just, but I play acoustical all the time, right? Because you can't play electric by yourself. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
But in a sense, I'm a better guitar player than I ever was. Just sometimes I wish I could go back and redo things, that I already recorded.
Have you?
No, it never left me. Never left me.
Right. It's interesting.
I played today. Today I played, right? I played guitar today.
Right.
Just before this interview, I was playing around, working on a new song.
Did you, on that point, Ish, did you feel with, this live album coming out and then sort of as we all get older, we start wanting to archive our stuff? Is the material for the band, has that all been nicely archived and packaged, or is there plans to sort of bring out some complete box set with nice sleeve notes?
I think this is, I don't know. There are some other live shows that I wish. There's a live show on YouTube that you can find. It's, again, the Spit in Boston, or I think it's Spit. It's a live show that were recorded in maybe 83. I'm not sure the date, but this is when we just had all of our sound correct, right?
Right.
We had a great sound man, Louis Beeson, the sound guy. So everything was in place. And if I had a wish, it was to release that as as an album, because it's really representative of what we became. This record is what we are, started as our infancy.
Yes.
And this is the mature sound of the band where everything is sort of in place and sounds how we want it. And if I had a wish, it would be to get a live album out of that. So as far as other recorded material, I have no idea. I don't know how much there is left of anything.
Have you ever sort of thought of putting your solo work, acoustic solo work, on Bandcamp and just putting that out there for a way?
I don't even know what is Bandcamp. I don't even know what that is. What is that?
I think that's what all bands and musicians use now to sort of put their records out. So Bandcamp.
I don't know anything.
You need to Google Bandcamp.
I'll check it out. I'll check out Bandcamp. I don't even know what it is.
So it's apparently, and everyone said it's the good guys. Unlike Spotify, it's where people can buy the music for sort of $1, and I think the musician gets most of the money. So it's not like going to give anyone an income, but it's a way of being able to make sure that the music's accessible. And yes, I don't know. I don't think people do it for money, but it's a way that people can get paid a little bit. And some people do rely on it a bit more. So Bandcamp is the one that everyone uses.
I'll check it out.
Do check it out, and you'll be like, you'll probably
find got me a new career. Thank you.
Yes, this is. I wondered if Romeo Void could be on Bandcamp. I wonder if they are. Romeo Void. I'll see if the band's on Bandcamp. And then
that would be nice to know.
Romeo Void on Bandcamp.
It's so funny.
It was, I think you are actually. Yeah, you are on Bandcamp actually.
Okay, and what does that mean?
Well, I'll send you the. Oh no, I can't send you a link. Can I?
I really don't know any of this.
So
I'll check
yeah,
that out for sure.
yeah. So put in Romeo Void Bandcamp, and
Yeah,
then
I
you'll.
will do that.
But then you'll realize that's the platform that everybody kind of uses to sort of put their music
Yeah,
out.
boy,
So,
I am not aware of these things.
yeah, so you can
Thank you.
buy
I need to
the
start a new career.
yeah, so you can buy on Bandcamp. You can buy the digital album for $9.99, or buy the
Wow,
CD for $14.99, and there you get it. So and then they
that
have
sounds like a good deal.
it's a very
You
good
mean
deal.
you mean the new this thing? What are you talking about? This new thing or
Yes,
this guy? Okay,
that's
wow.
on.
I'll check it.
Do check it out. There you go. You're all
Thank
on
God
there.
they gave me free ones, 10 free ones.
There you go. Yeah, you don't. Yeah,
I gave them out to a bunch of friends. It was really fun, right? To you'd pass them out to your friends.
oh yeah, that's such a nice thing.
These
So,
these documents of your past, right?
well,
So
it's nice. I
that's
mean,
good.
let's face it. When things happen straight away, one's a bit ambivalent. But then you appreciate a lot of these things a bit later on in life with
Yeah,
experience.
yeah. It's really a nice sort of cap to the whole thing. It's like a return to the beginning.
It is
And
absolutely.
again, it was totally unexpected. You know, I wasn't thinking about ever having an album again. It just came out of the blue, and so it was nice. We're not
Yes.
worried about selling a bunch of records and getting on the radio, and it's just none of that, right? It's just, oh, isn't this nice? We can release one more document of the band in a very sort of a nice way, right?
Yeah.
Without all the pressures of commercial top 40 hits, all this stuff, right? You just doing it for the doing of it, if that's a word,
Probably. But just last question. I mean, if you could have whispered something to your 16-year-old self starting out, and you thought, oh yeah, there was a couple of things I've learned, or little kind of ups and downs. Is there anything in particular that you might have thought, yeah, I wish someone had told me that when we started, or when I started, perhaps not just in music, but just in life in general? Is there anything
in life? Well, what I learned, what did John Lennon say? Something like, you make plans, and then the life happens to you, and all of those plans just go away, right? So that's sort of what I've learned, is that you can make plans and goals, but life and random events have a way of just taking you in a completely different direction. So that's sort of what I've learned in my 68 years of being on the planet,
Yes.
And you get more, I guess, you get more relaxed about, what's coming, what's next. Basically, I just try to stay as healthy as I can. I exercise a lot, so I take supplements, and I do all this. I just want to feel good. I want to be able to do things I want to do. So I feel physically, I'm in pretty good, good place physically. Mentally, and I have these senior moments, but I try to get those in check. It's sort of funny, Sometimes you're searching for a word and you just can't find it, and it's really funny. So I have these senior moments sometimes. It's like, where are my keys? Where are my keys? You're 58, I guess, so you're gonna start having these. It's pretty funny.
Well, I get it with names sometimes, and a band.
Yeah, it's weird.
Who was that band? They did that,
Right.
that kind of thing, where I'm sure in the older days that would have been just there in your mind. You think, oh, I can't remember it now. Shoot, perhaps that's the start.
Those will happen more frequently, unfortunately.
I'm looking forward to it, but like you, I'm obsessed with health and fitness, and I just ran.
That's great. Yeah, you want to keep doing
last week I ran the London Marathon as a virtual.
Oh
thing.
my God, good for you.
So
What kilometers is that? Like 25 or something?
No, it's 26 miles, which is, I don't
26
know.
miles. Wow.
Yeah, that's
So that's like 30-something kilometers.
yeah. So
Wow, wow, that's good for you.
but you have to keep fit.
Keep
Don't
doing
you?
it.
Just got to keep doing it. You got.
Keep doing it. Don't stop, right?
Do you weights?
That's the thing. You learn. You make it part of your life, and it's a habit. And you just don't stop. Yeah, I don't stop. I did my exercise today, right? It's my thing. So
yep, I'm
good for you.
I'm the same. Yes, absolutely.
Keep on keeping.
Keep on keeping. Yes, or keep on rocking in the free world, as Neil Young once
Yes,
said. So
right.
there you go.
Yeah.
But look, Peter, thank you ever so much for this. This has been amazing. I'm glad we got this together. And I'll
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Thank you
Yes.
for all the great questions and listening to my spiel. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
No, and thank you as well. And yeah, no, it's been great. And look, that's been brilliant. I'm going to have breakfast now. But look, thanks ever so much. Have a lovely day and enjoy.
Thank you.
Just, I know this is being English. Is it? Because we've got a bank holiday today because it's May the 1st.
Bank holiday. I've heard of those, yeah.
Do you have?
Well, right now we're in a thing called Golden Week in Japan. It's called Golden Week.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an amalgam of different sort of historical things in Japan. So it becomes a week. So I'm off today. So the timing of this is perfect.
Oh, good.
It's a day off. Yeah, it's called Golden Week. You can look it up if you want, if you're interested.
I'm going to look Golden Week up.
So we had a mutual holiday. So the stars were aligned.
Nice. Well, have a lovely full moon. I think that's this week.
Yeah, so thank you so much for this. I really enjoyed it.
Take care and look at Bandcamp. You'll enjoy it.
I will definitely check that out. Yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
It'll be your new friend. Take care and have a lovely day.
Okay, thanks a lot.
See you later. Bye.
Okay, bye. Bye.
And that, dear listener, as if I needed to say, is the end of the interview. A massive thank you to Peter Woods for giving me the time for that. And as I said, Romeo Void have got a new live album that's just come out. That was recorded on November the 14th, 1980, live from Mabuhay Gardens. Do check it out. That was part of Record Store Day. Also, it's available as a CD and digital download. It does sound fantastic, so do check it out. And go to their Bandcamp page as well. I will give you the details in the link below. Anyway, this is the C86 Show. Oh yeah, if you want to contact me, you can on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just do C86 Show. Keep it positive and groovy. All these have been archived on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, and possibly some other places. But anyway, this is it. Have a great week. Stay safe.